everybody. Ron Wildman here on your Middle Georgia Spotlight, and we're going to turn it on Middle Georgia Regional Airport. We have the manager out there, Doug Faour.
That's right.
That's F-A-O-U-R.
You got it.
And I've pronounced it right.
You did.
Like mayor, but fair.
That's exactly it. Yes, sir.
Well, welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you've been out there a couple of times.
Yes, I have. I came to Macon, Georgia in 2012 with a company called TVI Airport Management, who had the contract to manage the airport on behalf of the county. And I was there till 2016. And then the company transferred me to Atlantic City for a couple of years, and then Hartsville-Jackson for 4 to 5 years. And then there was an opportunity to come back to Macon as the Aviation Director and work for the county. And a couple of years ago, I came back to the Middle Georgia Regional Airport as the Aviation Director working for the county. So this is my second tour of duty, if you will.
So you're on our retirement plan.
Well, yeah, it's sort of, kind of, maybe.
Yeah. A few more years and you'll have it.
Yes, yeah. Yes.
What's happening out there? I mean, that is an unusual airport, to say the least. We're 60 miles away from the busiest airport in the world, which is convenient up the interstate. And then, as the crow flies, about 3 or 4 miles away from huge Robins Air Force Base.
Right.
And you're right there.
We're uniquely situated, as you mentioned, in proximity to the world's busiest airport and, of course, Robins Air Force Base, not being just a couple miles away. So the location has a number of advantages for being so close, and also has disadvantages as well for being close. But we understand what those are, and we try to take advantage of what the advantages are of being close to the world's busiest airport and Robins, and then minimize the disadvantages, if you will, for being so close. So.
Now, years ago, back when I was covering the airport for WMAZ and News 24, WGXA, we had Delta coming in. I think at times we had Eastern coming in, and then for a while we didn't have anybody coming in.
Right, right. Yeah, the air service has been unique in Macon. You know, you go back and look at history and all the carriers that have come through in different places that they've gone pre-deregulation in 77, 78, and then look at after deregulation. And like many, many other regional airports close to a major hub, struggled after deregulation with the implementation of the hub and spoke system. So I can tell you that when Delta was here, but I think it was roughly 2006, 8, sometime in there when they left, and then the other carriers that came in to follow were small essential air service carriers, 9 seats or maybe roughly 9 seats for some of them. And that just wasn't a formula that worked. So in 2012, when I got here, we brought in Silver Airways, which was a 30-seat twin turboprop aircraft that was going to Orlando, and we saw some success with that. And then that went away, and we knew that we were going to be extremely cautious. And the next step that we took, because our effort was to rebuild passenger service in Macon, and at the time there was one year we had 890 enplanements with the single seat or the single engine Caravan. I think it was 890 passengers in a year. We studied it very carefully, and we knew what characteristics a carrier needed to be successful. And that's what we went and looked for. That's what we got. And in 2016, 2017, Contour Airlines launched. And then we worked our way back up to over 17,000 enplanements with Contour Airlines pre-COVID. And so we're seeing, with the carrier that we have now, good success. We were successful going into Baltimore. Yesterday was our inaugural flight.
May 1st.
Yes, sir. Our inaugural flight to Washington Dulles, and so we're very excited about this change and what it may do for air service in Macon and how the community is going to benefit from that.
What is Contour? How are they put together?
Well, Contour Airlines is their corporate flight management. They do business as Contour Airlines, and their primary business is essential air service routes. I believe they have about 22 routes across the country, Macon being the most successful route that they have.
Oh, good.
They fly ERJ 145s, 135s, and CRJ 200s.
Well, I understand everybody likes the plane. Now, how many flights in and out of Macon do they make a day or a week?
So Contour does 12 round-trip flights a week. They do, I think it's 2 every day of the week except Saturdays and Wednesday, I believe it is. They only do 1 flight that week because those days are typically slower in travel. So we do about 12 round-trip flights a week with Contour. And in addition to that, we also work very closely with Caesars and MGM, and they run a number of charter flights out of our airport where they go to, in fact, one of the charters is out at Laughlin, Nevada right now. We also run charters to Atlantic City, New Jersey, Gulfport, Mississippi. So
we do have choices then.
yeah,
a little
we do,
bit.
yeah, for the charters. And those are great deals because you can get an entire weekend on one of these flights where you fly to a hotel, you get your flight, your hotel, and it's in some cases $400 or $500 for several days, and so not a bad package deal that you can get.
How do we learn about that? I know how to get a hold of Contour, I think,
Right.
but what about these other charter flights?
The other charter flights, if you go to our website at iflymacon.com, there's information about those charter flights and how to book them on our website.
Now, that's with passenger service. There's a lot more going on out at that airport, though.
Right.
We got several businesses, big businesses,
Yeah.
too.
It's unprecedented what's happening at the airport right now. It's amazing. The amount of projects that we have going right now is in excess of about $80 million, which you'll see transpire over the next year and a half, 2 years or so. And some of that's private development, but a lot of it is coming through our runway extension, which is underway now.
We've been talking about that forever.
Yes. I think it was identified as a need of the airport over 40 years ago, and we're finally moving forward with that. So
Great.
a very exciting project where we're going from 6,500 feet to 7,100 feet.
Will allow what?
Great question. What it allows for is, aircraft don't necessarily have, there's a couple ways of looking at it, and the amount of runway length they need is based on a number of characteristics that the environment may present. For example, barometric pressure, rain, temperature, a number of things. So, for example, a 737-800 that we fly from here to Gulfport, Mississippi, no problem. It takes plenty of gas and goes. But if it wanted to go to California, it would need to take on more gas, which would make the aircraft too heavy for 6,500 feet. So the runway extension is going to allow for aircraft that can currently operate safely at the airport to have more options to go longer distances in a variety of different places. In addition, the extension will allow us to bring in additional aircraft for maintenance, such as a 787 or an A350, which are really large aircraft. So once we get that extension done, it does open the door for more aircraft. But primarily what it does is allow airplanes that are already operating there to be able to take on more fuel, more passengers, and more load, which makes someone who's flying for profit, it makes it more beneficial to them.
What about cargo? Do we have people bringing stuff in to store here?
Occasionally we do some adjunct cargo where cargo flights will come in and offload or load. We don't have dedicated cargo at this time or scheduled cargo, but in time that's something that, considering our location, we feel that that's something that we can build on, and it's something that we have addressed in our airport layout plan for the future, and so we hope to be able to get to that at some point.
With you being at Hartsfield at one time, there was talk all the time about getting some type overflow from up there down here. Is that a possibility?
Well, it just depends on how you look at it. I know there's a lot of talk about additional airports needed in the Atlanta metro area, and if you think about it, one of the reasons Atlanta is the world's busiest airport is because there's essentially no competition super close to the airport like other big cities have, like Chicago and a number of others, New York, to name a couple. So the way that I look at it is not necessarily an effort to purposely do that and build an airport, say Macon, but we are building an environment in Macon that's attractive to carriers. So I think with the ultra low cost carriers and a lot of the challenges that our airlines are having right now, Macon is very, very attractive to them. So I think what we'll see is a natural switch down and maybe get some of that traffic and alleviate some of the pressure that's there. That's what we're hoping for anyways.
What do we have to do to get it?
Well, I think what you do is, so an airport's basically a landlord. We have property that people can lease and utilize as they wish. So like any other landlord would do if they want to attract businesses, they make it they make the environment very attractive for someone to come in and do business. And over the last couple of years, that's what we've done. We have created an incentive package for carriers where they can come in and operate at a very affordable price. We also have a minimum revenue guarantee that's available. So we create an environment that's attractive for them, and that's what we've done. Now it's a matter of, for lack of a better description, the moon and the stars lining up right for the right carrier. And these carriers we talk with and work with on a routine basis. And I feel we're very close to being able to advance commercial air service at the Middle Georgia Regional Airport.
I recall during the pandemic, I believe, when traffic was down on the airlines, we had a bunch of Delta passenger planes parked out there. Mm-hmm. What was that all about?
So during COVID, the number of flights was reduced significantly for all carriers, had reduced a ton of flights. I'm not familiar specifically with the Delta aircraft, but the airport was utilized by a number of carriers to park some airplanes that they weren't going to be using because of the downsizing at that time.
And we had room to do it.
And we had the room to do it, yes, sir. So, and that's something that happened at a number of airports throughout the country. They needed places to put aircraft that were accessible. Because even though you park an airplane, if you're planning to return it into service, they still have to do maintenance on it. They need it to be accessible and secure. So we were a location where a couple carriers did decide to park and store their aircraft until they got them back into service.
All those businesses out there, what do we have, like painting aircraft or repairing aircraft, or what's available out there?
So I like to refer to it as the MRO mall. So if you go to a mall, you can get anything you need there, shoes, a haircut, a pet, whatever. You can go to a mall and get the things you need. So the MRO mall is a maintenance, repair, and overall, I call it a mall, but you can come and get aircraft maintenance. You can come and get aircraft painting. You can get composite work done on your aircraft, and a number of other things you could do, possibly, potentially avionics and several other things. So that's what we have at Macon right now. We have a diverse group of entities that are providing a number of services. Heavy maintenance on Embraer aircraft painting for just about any carrier you can think of has been into Macon to get their plane painted at Dean Baldwin, a fantastic facility, doing very well. They started about 3 years ago. And we also have a company called H2 Aero, which does aircraft maintenance and does composite work, where they can repair radomes and those types of things. And we also have Slate Aviation, which does interiors of aircraft. So you can bring a plane into Macon and get a variety of services, and that's why we refer to it as the MRO mall concept.
So not every airport the size of Macon has those services available?
Not at all, no. Some airports do, but we're very unique in that. And understanding we're 82 miles away from the world's busiest airport, we can't put all of our eggs in a commercial service basket. We got to be diversified so we can continue to create that economic output that we create. And we do that by having a very diverse group of businesses that are there, such as I just mentioned.
You know, expanding the passenger service, for instance, is that possible, you think?
It is possible. I mean, maybe the expectations for some people are probably way too high, considering the proximity to Atlanta. But we certainly can do more than where we're at right now and provide a more easier pathway for our citizens to get to where they want to be. And I'll give you a great example of that is what we just did with Contour Airlines. The reason we switched from Baltimore to Dulles is because United Airlines has a hub at Dulles, a very large hub. And Contour Airlines has an interline agreement with United. So now you can go to United Airlines and you can book a flight from Macon to anywhere that United flies from Dulles.
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world. You can go to France, you can go to out west, wherever you want to go. So you simply fly to Dulles, which is quicker than driving to Hartsfield, switch planes and connect and go to where you want to go. So the ease of getting to where you want to be, or the ease for folks coming to Macon to visit, is now significantly better because of what we just, the change that we just made with Contour Airlines.
Well, for instance, my daughter and her husband live in the Athens, Georgia area. They came down to here and parked when they could park free here.
Right.
And booked a European trip. They went to Baltimore and then went from Baltimore where they were going. And I just thought that was fantastic for
Yes. Yeah, we get folks coming from all over Georgia because of the route that we have. It's so much easier. For example, I meet people from Albany, Georgia quite a bit. They would rather drive up here and catch a flight to the D.C. metro area as opposed to catching a flight in Albany, flying to Atlanta, changing planes, and then going to where they're going. And the reason for that is, even though we do charge for parking now, it's a very limited amount compared to what you pay at Hartsfield.
Well, they just raised it. They almost doubled the rates up there at Hartsfield
Right.
just this past week.
Absolutely. It's extremely expensive. It's only $8 a day to park at our airport. And then if you think about, I'm going to go to Hartsfield, but I'll take Groom. Well, the price for Groom now is significantly higher. You're looking at about $110 round trip, or maybe even more. I haven't looked at it in a while. But so you add another $110 on if you take Groom. But if you leave from Macon, you might pay $8 a day for parking on a 3-day trip. That's still cheaper than taking Groom up to Hartsfield, and you do the math. So.
That's becoming the real deal, the parking thing.
It is, and it's a tough thing because we were able to do it for free for so long, and that's because we didn't have passengers, and the expense of running parking was more than what we would have made. So, but the airports are extremely expensive to operate, very, very expensive to operate. There's 1,100 acres to take care of, a lot of lights, a lot of electric bills, a lot of facilities to maintain. And to have an airport that people are proud of and they feel comfortable using, it takes investment. We've got to generate revenue, and parking is almost every airport's main revenue generator. So this was the time for us to do that so we can continue to keep the airport up to what our community expects us to do.
And it's $8.
$8 a day.
That's as good as free these days.
It's the next thing.
Can't even get lunch for $8 anymore.
No, you can't. You can't.
How did you get into aviation in the first place, and where was it?
So, as a kid, I was always just very much enthused by the thought of flying. And but as I got older, I thought maybe this is probably something I can achieve because of the expense of it. And, you have to be, inaccurate things I was told as a kid. You got to go through the military. You got to have perfect eyesight. You got to, all these things, be perfect at math and all these things. So I didn't pursue it right away out of high school. I joined the Marine Corps. And once I got out of Marine Corps, I had a friend who had learned to fly, and I don't know how to say this other than he was a clown. And I thought, man, if this guy can do it, I can do it. So I just thought back to something I always wanted to do, and I jumped in it and started doing it and started to learn how to fly. And my intent was always to fly commercially, but after 9/11, the industry changed quite a bit, and I decided that I got a job at an airport while I was waiting for things to get better, and I really loved it. I enjoyed being on airports. I was so clueless as to what working on an airport meant. I thought because I was a pilot, I probably knew everything I needed to know, and boy, was I mistaken, and humbled to learn the challenges of running an airport, and how much strategy is behind it, and how much you have to know and understand. And it just, I just got so encouraged and challenged by it that I stuck with it. I'm home every night with my wife and kids, and I really enjoy what I do.
Did you live close to an airport when you were a youngster?
I did. I actually lived in Alexandria, Virginia, which you could pretty much throw a rock at, National Airport in D.C. when I was a kid.
That's a special place,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Washington National.
Yes, it is. So yeah, I did. I could see them coming and going on a routine basis, and always just staring up at them, that kind of thing, like a lot of kids did back then,
One other thing, kind of a personal thing, but if you go through the Marines, do you feel like you can do anything out of that?
Well, you start to question your judgment, a bit, when, man, I make bad decisions. No, I'm kidding. Joining the Marine Corps was probably the best thing that I ever could have done for myself. It gave me a level of confidence that I would have never had if I would not have joined the Marine Corps. And I met some of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life, some of the toughest guys I've ever met in my life. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I don't encourage people to do that. I think you've got to there's got to be something that's in you that you want to do. And like my son, for example, never encouraged him to be a Marine, and he went off and joined the Marine Corps. So, but it is a pretty special thing. It's something to be very proud of, and but probably think I can do more than I should think I can do, especially at my age now. So.
Well, we're all proud of the Marines.
Yes.
And appreciate you going through that.
Oh, thank you.
Recently, earlier this year, maybe last year, they announced several millions of dollars being allocated to the airport for, what was it, Banjo terminal station, or what is that all about?
Okay, so when you travel around and look at airports try to capture what's called a sense of place. So if I were to blindfold you and take you into an airport and you walk around, you can ultimately figure out where you are by very little subtle things that you would see or notice or hear or smell. So for example, like if you've ever been to the Denver's airport, it's a pretty unique airport. You'll notice the awnings, if you will, for lack of a better description, that are in the front of it. They're the white caps that come up.
I've seen those.
They look like mountains, right?
I haven't been there, but I've seen them. I know about them.
Yes. And they also have a train in the inside, and it plays a ditty that lasts about half a second or so, and she's coming around the mountains really quick. And so there's these little things that you hear that create a sense of place that airports do. So when we sat down and talked about, we need a new terminal. Our terminal was very old. It is probably the most important gateway to our community. This is where very important people fly into to make very important decisions whether or not they want to do business in Macon, right? So we needed to redo our terminal, and when we were discussing with the engineers and architects, what are we going to build? We know we need a new building, but what are we going to build? We started talking sense of place. And when you talk a sense of place about Macon, the subject of our music heritage always comes up, right? So a great musical heritage that we have here in Macon. So the instructions to the architect was, let's create a sense of place with some subtle hints to our musical heritage. And they came back with a number of ideas. One of the ideas was the guitar that you've all seen now. It wasn't so subtle. That's pretty much in your face, right? But the idea of it was we want to, pay tribute to our music heritage, and so the guitar was, when I looked at it, I was a little nervous to show it to our mayor. I was like, man, I love this. This is really cool. I don't know what he's going to think. So
I know what he would think. You don't even have to tell me.
Right. A lot of people ask me, do you know our mayor? And I'm like, yeah, and I know him. But even I thought this might be a little much for Mayor Miller. But he loved it. His staff loved it. And we were all excited about doing something that's so unique. There won't be another FBO in our country, an executive terminal in our country that is as cool as what we have and as unique as what we have. There's some unique ones, but not quite like this. And so now we've got something we can really be proud of. We'll have a brand new facility, all built with mass timber. Most of it's sourced right here in Georgia. That was another thing, using materials that were local, also helping create a sense of place. So this mass timber project, not a lot of them being done. This is one of few, so it's pretty cool. It's a environmentally friendly process, and so what we're doing is unique in a number of aspects with this guitar. We're also working with Jessica Walden and Steve Moretti on our committee to help with some of the finishes and also the some of the artifacts, if you will, that will be in the inside of the building. So when you come in, and it will be accessible by the public, when you come in, you'll be able to see some of these really cool features that we have on the inside. The woodwork that's going in there is amazing. It's the inside of a guitar. It's got to have woodwork, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
So, but one cool piece about it is the entire building is going to be covered with LED lighting. So when aircraft are flying from Atlanta down to Florida or coming back, and many times we look out the window, you can see Macon on your way back. They'll be able to look out the window at nighttime and see this guitar. And if you don't know what that guitar is, you're probably going to want to go figure out what it is. So, you know, we kind of feel like we're putting us back on the map again with this guitar and saying who we are and where we are. So
When are we expecting to move into it?
in 2026, you know, we've already started the demolition and moving forward. Hopefully, we'll see it in summertime of 2026, somewhere around there, summertime, fall of 2026.
I can't believe we're having to wrap up. Been a very quick.
That was quick.
30 minutes. The future, the immediate future. What do you see for us down there?
Lots more construction going on. We're going to have a brand new air traffic control tower in 2026. We're putting in a new taxiway. That should be starting pretty soon. We're building more hangars, more T hangars. We got private development of private hangars coming up. Maybe some expansions of the businesses that currently exist there. I'm pretty confident we're going to see more carriers coming into Macon, as we discussed earlier. So I think our future is looking really good right now, and we're excited about what's in store for the Middle Georgia Regional Airport.
Well, Doug Faour, appreciate you coming by, and glad you like it here too.
Yeah, I love it
because,
here. Yes.
Raising your children here.
I did. Yes.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and it's been an honor. Pleasure.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, folks, for being with us here on our Middle Georgia Spotlight. I'm Ron Wildman reporting over here at Mercer University.